When I was younger, I often found myself dismissing the wisdom of the older generation. I thought they were out of touch, their experiences irrelevant to the fast-paced, ever-changing world I inhabited. But as I've grown, I've come to realize that their insights are like hidden treasures, waiting to be unearthed. I remember sitting on the porch of my grandmother's house one summer evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting a warm glow over everything. She was sitting in her rocking chair, her hands gently knitting a scarf, and I was restless, scrolling through my phone, oblivious to the world around me. "Put that thing down for a minute," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You know, when I was your age, we didn't have all this technology. We had to talk to each other. We had to listen." At that moment, I rolled my eyes, thinking she was just being nostalgic. But as she continued, I found myself leaning in, curiosity piqued. "Life is about connection," she said, her needles clicking rhythmically. "You'll find that the most valuable moments come from the people you share them with. Don't let your devices steal that from you." It was simple advice, but it struck a chord deep within me. I realized how often I had chosen the virtual over the real, the screen over the face-to-face. As the years passed, I began to reflect on other pieces of advice I had received from older folks, each one a small revelation that shifted my perspective. There was Mr. Thompson, my neighbor, who had lived through the Great Depression. He once told me, "You don't need much to be happy. It's the little things that matter. A good meal, a warm fire, a friend to share it with." At the time, I was chasing after material success, thinking that happiness was tied to my career and possessions. But Mr. Thompson's words lingered in my mind, reminding me to appreciate the simple joys in life. Then there was Mrs. Jenkins, the retired schoolteacher who had a way of making everyone feel special. She often said, "You never know what someone else is going through. Be kind, always." I remember a particularly rough day when I was feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. I snapped at a cashier who was taking too long. Later, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, and I thought of Mrs. Jenkins. Her advice echoed in my mind, and I realized how easy it is to forget that everyone has their battles. Kindness became a mantra for me, a reminder to approach each interaction with empathy. And then there was the old man at the park, who would sit on the same bench every day, feeding the birds. He had a twinkle in his eye and a laugh that could light up the gloomiest of days. One afternoon, I joined him, and he shared his philosophy on life. "You have to embrace change," he said. "Life is a series of seasons. Some are beautiful, some are harsh, but they all have their purpose. Don't resist it. Flow with it." I had always been someone who craved stability, who feared the unknown. But his words encouraged me to see change as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat. As I navigated my 20s, I encountered challenges that tested my resilience. I remembered the advice of these older souls, and it became my anchor. I learned to savor the small moments, to find joy in the mundane. I started volunteering at a local shelter, inspired by the kindness I had witnessed in Mrs. Jenkins. I found that giving back not only helped others, but also filled my own heart with gratitude. One day, while serving meals, I met a woman named Clara. She was in her 70s, with a warm smile and a story for every occasion. She told me about her late husband, how they had danced in the kitchen every Friday night, no matter how tired they were from the week. "We didn't have much," she said, "but we had each other, and that was everything." Her words resonated with me, reminding me that love and connection are what truly enrich our lives. I began to prioritize my relationships, reaching out to friends and family more often. I learned to listen, really listen, to their stories, their struggles, and their joys. I discovered that everyone has a unique perspective shaped by their experiences, and there is so much to learn from one another. Then there was the advice about failure. I had always feared it, seeing it as a reflection of my worth. But an old mentor of mine, a retired businessman, once said, "Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Embrace it. Learn from it. It's the best teacher you'll ever have." Those words shifted my entire outlook. I started to see setbacks not as dead ends, but as stepping stones on my journey. Each failure became a lesson, a chance to grow stronger and wiser. I remember the first time I truly embraced this philosophy. I had applied for a job I desperately wanted, pouring my heart into the application. When I didn't get it, I was crushed. But instead of wallowing in self-pity, I reached out for feedback. The hiring manager took the time to explain what I could improve. I took those lessons to heart, and the next time I applied for a position, I was better prepared. I got the job, and it felt like a victory not just for the position, but for the growth I had experienced along the way. As I continued to gather wisdom from those around me, I found myself drawn to the stories of resilience. There was a woman in her 80s at the community center who had survived a war, lost loved ones, and rebuilt her life from the ashes. She would often say, "You are stronger than you think. Life will throw challenges your way, but you have the power to rise above them." Her strength inspired me to confront my own fears and insecurities. I began to push myself out of my comfort zone, trying new things, taking risks, and discovering parts of myself I never knew existed. I took up painting, something I had always wanted to do, but had been too afraid to try. I remember my first class feeling like an imposter surrounded by talented artists. But I heard that woman's voice in my head, urging me to embrace my strength. I picked up the brush and let my emotions flow onto the canvas. It was liberating. I learned that creativity is not about perfection, it's about expression. Through all these experiences, I realized that the advice from older generations is not just about the words themselves, but the love and intention behind them. Each piece of wisdom is a gift, a way to guide us through the complexities of life. I began to seek out conversations with older folks, eager to learn from their journeys. I found that they often longed to share their stories, to pass on their knowledge. One evening, I attended a community gathering where a panel of seniors shared their life lessons. One woman spoke about the importance of forgiveness. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, she said. Her words struck me deeply. I had been holding on to grudges, allowing them to fester and poison my relationships. In that moment, I made a commitment to let go, to forgive not just others, but myself for past mistakes. Another man spoke about the power of gratitude. Every day, write down 3 things you're grateful for, he advised. It will change your perspective. I took his advice to heart, starting a gratitude journal. At first, it felt forced, but as I continued, I began to notice the beauty in the ordinary. The warmth of the sun on my skin, the laughter of friends, the taste of my favorite meal. Gratitude became a lens through which I viewed the world, transforming my outlook and bringing me peace. As I reflect on all this wisdom, I realize that the most profound lessons often come from the simplest truths. Life is fleeting, and we must cherish each moment. We must cultivate connections, practice kindness, embrace change, learn from failure, and live with gratitude. These lessons are not just for the young, they are universal truths that resonate across generations. Now, as I sit here, I find myself wanting to share this wisdom with others, to pass it on like a torch. I want to encourage younger generations to listen, to seek out the stories of those who have walked this earth longer than they have. There is so much to learn from the lives that have come before us, so much that can transform our perspectives and enrich our own journeys. So if you ever find yourself dismissing the advice of an older person, take a moment to pause, put down your phone, look them in the eye and really listen. You might just find that their words hold the keys to a life well lived, a life filled with connection, kindness, resilience, and gratitude. And who knows? You might even discover a new way to see the world, a new way to embrace the beautiful, messy, unpredictable journey that is life.